When I figured out how it works and I got the calculator in my hand, I just play on it. What if I put this way? What if I put this way? Like, I don't care if it's a dividend, a covered call. I want cash come. And like, I'll show guys at work what I'm making, and they're like, "That's not real." And I'm like, "I've done it for 4 years now, and it's in my account." If you want to risk a little money, you can get some real juicy returns. Your first year is gonna suck, because even if you only put in $1,000, you get 10%. It's like, I made $100. This is boring. When you got $1 million in there, that same return's 100 grand. You got to kind of just figure out how it works and then calculate your risk. How sweet is this? Like, it's just a math thing. Like, okay, it pays me this much amount a month. Okay, I got to get this much in there, and then I replace my income, kind of thing.
Welcome back to another go round worth of Masters of the Market. Last week we had one heck of an episode with someone who made millions when it comes to leverage ETF funds to really ramp up their income. But this week, a more compelling story with Jarett Aschenbrenner, who not only became a millionaire within 7 years, but he did that time he was 30 years old. So first and foremost, welcome to Masters of the Market. And I just want to pass the first question over to you, man, and ask you your story and how exactly you got to where you are today.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. My story, I mean, it's kind of just your average one. I live in Calgary, Alberta right now. I've been here for 10 years, but I'm originally from a small Saskatchewan town up here in Canada. So ever since I was little, I've always loved money. A lemonade stand, how I could make some money, or if I bought something, sold it. I always kind of had that little hustle in me. And then just growing up, like my parents, they split up when I was young, but I just always remember them like working. There's no like, they worked as hard as they could. Like, they're hardworking people, and they would seem to always just be getting by. So I was kind of growing up, and I was like, hard work isn't the way to be rich, because like if there was, my parents would be loaded. So I was like, there's got to be another way. So I kind of, same thing as everyone, kind of just started looking through, podcasts, reading books, and then I actually bought, obviously like everyone, Rich Dad Poor Dad. So then I was like, this is it. Like, I'm gonna own thousands of doors of real estate. I was like, I found it. So then I went down that route. I was bigger pockets, every podcast, find like, seller finance, trying to find cool ways to buy properties, blah blah blah. But then I was just kind of getting upset, because you'd have guys from this, like, Canada's just so expensive, right? So like, you'd have these guys on from the States, and they're like, like, I bought a fourplex fully renovated for 350 grand, and it cash flows me 4 or 5 grand. And I'm like, get out of here. Like, that doesn't happen here. Here you spend that fourplex, it gets, you pay 1.3 million, you got to gut the thing, and then you lose money on it for the rest of your life. So I'm like, well, I'm out. I can't do that. I think Canadian, like, if you have a ton of money, yeah, it's another alley. Like, you can put some money towards it and then just have another asset class. But for me, I was like, okay, that's not me. And then I did buy a property back home for a rental, and it's just like, yeah, you see the mortgage get paid down, and it was just too slow for me. I was like, because what really changed was, I think it's called Millionaire Fastlane. That guy just said like one line in there, changed it. He's like, if it's important to invest and take care of your future, but you gotta also get the money in there now, because if you love golf, like for me, I love golfing. I want to golf every day if I could. But it's like, if I do the slow route, I can finally retire at 65. Well, maybe my knees are shot and I can't golf. So it's like, okay, well, now it's like, okay, I got to learn how to grow my money, and I got to try to learn to grow it as fast as I can. So then I really focused on that, and kind of got into it. And same thing, went down YouTube, all the stuff. And then the thing for me was when I got a compound interest, when I figured out how it works and I got the calculator in my hand, I just play on it, and it would just make me happy. What if I put this away? What if I put this way? Whoa, it'll be worth, you know what I mean? Because it's crazy. So many people too, they think like, oh, you need tons of money to buy the market. It's like, if you start young, like, you can make a good living, like good retirement at $200. So it's like, imagine if you just like flooded that with cash. So I went down that, and then I was a dividend guy, because I was like, how sweet is this? Like, it's just a math thing. Like, okay, it pays me this much amount a month. Okay, I got to get this much in there, and then I replace my income, kind of thing. And then you kind of keep going down the thing, and then you get on the guys on the ETFs, like just buy and hold the S&P. You know what I mean? And then you're like, well, they got a good point too. So you're like, okay, well, I got to do both. And then I found like you're talking about, the covered call ETFs. And then that one got me real excited, because it's like, yeah, 4% sweet if you got 10, 20 million sitting there. Then you can live that sweet life. Because I don't want to just live an average life. I want to, if I'm going to retire on it, I want to be doing trips. I want to be, making sure my wife's not working. I want to be taking care of my kid, my future kids. Because, like, in Canada, it's so expensive. So it's like, if I don't kind of take this on, like, my son could go to school and come up with a really good job, and he might not be able to buy a house till he's 40. You know what I mean? And it's just like, there's nothing against him, but it's like, the prices have gone so nuts that it's like where I kind of have to take on the role to have all, like, hopefully get ahead of it so I can help them out, or, stuff like that. But then we got in the call ETFs, and I was really loving that because I was some, like, 10, 15, 20% returns. And if you want to risk a little money, you can get some real juicy returns. And then, so at work, there's like probably like five or six of us that are big into investing. And there's a guy at work, we were all buying these ETFs, and then he said, kind of like, have like these covered calls, like we learned about them because we wanted to see what these ETFs were doing. And he's like, I think we should try it ourselves too. And I was like, how do we do that? And he's like, well, we got to learn. So he brought it up, and we kind of just started going in, and we just got into just the simple side of it. Like, we just do the wheel strategy, if you're familiar with it. We just sell puts on good companies we want to buy, collect premiums. And if it drops down, we buy them, and we sell calls on the other side, collect premiums. And if they fill, we just keep repeating the wheel. And it's just insane. Some of these, like, the returns, you just increase. So I just found, kind of just built okay, I don't want to go all in on covered calls in case I got it wrong here. So I kind of have, like, I'd say my portfolio is 30% ETFs, like just buy and forget, and then 30% covered call dividends. And then I have probably another 30% in a margin options account that I just strictly just do options with. So that's kind of how I got into it, really. And that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now.
Just to clarify, it took you 7 years. Once you started this process, 7 years to become a millionaire.
Well, with the stock, like, $1 million in the market.
Okay.
If you're going net worth, I hit it a little earlier just because of the 3 properties I have. I don't really count that. I say nets are for fish kind of thing. But yeah, I started my job up north with 30,000, and that was 7 years ago. And between my accounts and then what I have in my wife's name, we just touched $1 million.
So here's what's crazy, at least, from what you first started saying, you had this childhood where you grew up, parents, split up, but both of them very hard workers. And then you said, I think one thing that is key for all of us, and I want to highlight it, it's not about working harder. It's about working smarter. I totally agree with that because there's so many people probably out there watching this right now that hustle hard every single day, and they're just not seeing the returns they want to see in the market, or they're not seeing the returns at all because they're not in the market. What I want to ask you about is, if someone decides to fast track and take the route that you have taken, how much risk is actually involved?
Depends. Like, if you're just doing the market stuff, it's the risk of the market. It's going to go down, but long term, it's going to be there. More so, the only risk I have is on the option side. You got to kind of just figure out how it works and then calculate your risk. So for me, like, if you want to go super safe, you have to pick good companies. That's how you can get burned. Because once you get into the options, you start looking at them and you're like, okay, that's a good premium. That's a good premium on Amazon. That's a decent premium on Facebook or Meta. But then it'll get you. Your eye will look at that little risky stock. Oh, GameStop is paying huge premiums. You know what I mean? But it's like, you have to be okay owning it, because when it has that dip, you got to buy the shares. So then you get stuck holding. So if you're doing it on junk companies, like, you could go a long term of making, like, killing it. But if you're not, like, in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't want to own that long term, you could get bit, because then if you get filled and it tanks, then that money's dead. But whereas if you're buying these good companies and, like, they're just growing revenues and, like, in 20 years they're going to be there. Worst case scenario is you have a big market tank and you're just sitting on the shares. And then when it comes back up, you sell the covered calls, right? So that's the biggest thing, is you have to buy what you're okay owning. And the second thing is, like, I got to be honest, I used a little margin, right? Like, I kind of went super risky because we did, a guy at work and he built it. I'm terrible at computers, like I was telling you. He built a spreadsheet, and 6 guys, we said we're going to do 3 months on the spreadsheet with fake money And if we're profitable in 3 months, we're going in. All 6 guys went in, everyone with different strategies, some being super loose because it was not real money. And in 3 or 6 months, whatever it was, we all made money. You know what I mean? So then we're like, oh, well, we're going. So out of the 6, only 3 of us actually did it for real money. And I didn't have a bunch of cash sitting around because I had it in there. I didn't want to pull from it in case it wasn't right. So I went kind of crazy. I tapped my line of credit, not tapped, but I had a line of credit sitting there for 40 grand. I threw it in there and then started doing it that. And then I had some money in savings. So I would dip into the margin just to be able to sell more premiums, just to keep growing those monthly premiums. And then within the first year, I paid off paid off the line of credit. So I was clean there. And then even to this day, I'll still tickle the margin a little bit. I make sure that my margin doesn't get out of hand. Like I have my margin count, if I wanted to, it's insane how fast, how much money I could spend. So you got to really check yourself, because that's how you could get burnt. But I think for anyone starting out, like, your 2 big risks that you got to watch when you get into it is, don't get aggressive on the terrible companies, and watch the margin, because you'll be sitting there looking at it. Trust me. So if you really want to be like, I want to do this, but I want like no fear, because the way I look at it is the same as like, okay, Apple's at $200. Would you buy it for 197 in 2 weeks? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll sell a put, collect, whatever it is, $100, $200, whatever it is, premiums in my pocket. And then in 2 weeks, yeah, I could go down to 190 and you got to buy it for 197. But if you would have just bought it at the market 2 weeks ago, you still had the dip. So you might as well get the premium on it, is the way I look at it. And it's big for me because I'm up here in Canada. So like, I'm paid in USD. So I get another 30% on top of my premiums. So it's kind of like a win-win for me on that. But that's just the way I kind of got it, was like, okay, well, it's like, I can sign this contract to buy this stock at a cheaper price in 2 weeks, get paid for that instantly in my account now, or I could just buy it at the market. Well, I'll take the premium all day.
I've had so many people who have joined me over the years on Masters of the Market who spoke about, covered calls and options. And immediately I always get the comments of people saying, this is risky, stay away from it, no way, I'm not getting involved. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I'm a big fan of saying, hey, if this investor is successful, he's seeing that success for a reason. And it's because it works. The strategy works. So I think it comes down to a lot of investors not actually understanding the strategy. So if you were to pitch this strategy to a 4th grader, how exactly would you explain it to them so we can prove that this strategy actually does work as long as you have the right approach?
Kind of almost like an insurance company. For someone is paying you a premium for the right to your shares. They're saying, so if I sell a put, someone's saying, well, okay, I'll give you that premium to hold the right to your shares. So as long as you have the capital to hold those shares. But to explain to a 4th grader, I guess that's kind of the best way I could do it, is like that first one. It's just like, you're just writing these contracts that's saying that you can get these stocks at a certain date for this price. And if it doesn't go to that price, it's worthless. Like if you sell a put and it's, you sold it at 200 and it went to 201, it's worthless. You don't have to buy the shares at that date that you have written the contract. So it's like, okay, but you get the premium, and you get the premium now. You don't have to wait the 2 weeks. Like, it's in your pocket. So you could also, that's another thing too. You got the time at the money, so you can buy something else if you wanted to. And then the covered call side is just the opposite. You own the shares now. And the thing I love about the covered calls, I actually switched my, sorry to kind of, I don't know how I would explain to a 4th grader. That's maybe why I switched here. But I would just say, but with the covered calls, I changed my strategy a bit, because I was like the wheel strategy. I would sell puts. As soon as I owned them, sell calls. But then I was realizing, I was like, some of these companies I really think can do well. You know what I mean? Like, and that was also a reason why my portfolio is where it's at. Like, it's been a pretty sweet ride the last 5. There's obviously been some major dips, but they snapped back for us. You know what I mean? I also was buying when I was doing it, and I kind of learned like a good lesson, I guess. But I was I was kind of selling the calls right away, and then they'd have these rides, and it's like, shoot, I was right on that stock, and I missed out on the gains. So then I kind of changed my thing. It's like I'll sell puts heavy on things I want to own instead of just buying them at the market. And when I end up owning them, I'm just sitting. Like there's lots of positions, and there's a couple positions in my portfolio like I haven't sold a covered call on. Like for example, SoFi. I've hammered the puts at it at $7. So now I got 5,000 shares of SoFi, and I haven't sold a call on because I love what they're doing. They're growing members, growing revenue. Like I love the idea of a one-stop shop. I love the CEO, Anthony Noto. Like, you know what I mean? He's I think he's a killer. You know what I mean? I think he's gonna do great for it. So it's like I only sell calls now on companies where I'm like I'm happy with my profits because I got bit on Palantir. Like I sold the puts and then I owned them at like $20 and they just ripped to $80. So I was like, hey, I'm happy it's selling at 80 because they're if you look them up, like they're so rich, like they're so overvalued. So it's like, when is this gonna fall out? And they so I just kept selling covered calls. I always do like a 10-day covered call. So I had them at eight, like that was it was up to 80, and I'd sell them at $84, and it was paying me 4 grand every. It was paying me 4 grand American every 10 days, and I ended up going
Wow.
through like yeah, like there because it's so volatile. So the more the volatile the stock, the higher the premium, based off the VIX, right? So I was selling them like, and I nailed like a month and a half or 2 months of this. So I hit like I probably made quick 20 grand in premiums, and then it just they came out with their numbers again and they ripped. So then I ended up having to sell the shares at 84. Like, but I was still up like over 100K on them. And it's like, but if look now they're 134 and they just kept running. So there's that risk, right? Of the, but the thing that's sweet is like you still get all the capital gains on top of those premiums. Like it's not like, my break even at 20 goes up to 84. It's not like I lost out because I was taking these juicy premiums. It's not like I lost out on the big large gap in the middle. I still get all that. You know what I mean? So for me,
Which
I
is
just
something I feel a lot of people even fail to factor in because they're so
yeah,
busy looking elsewhere that they forget about the actual capital gain.
yeah. You got to be careful, like, because you got to realize them now, right? So the tax bill's coming, so you got to be smart there. Whereas the other stuff, like the ETFs, you never sell, you don't have to pay tax on. So you got to make sure that you know that side of it. But yeah, so many people, like, it's funny when I explain it to them. It's like, and I get all the capital gains, and they're like, huh? You get it all plus the premium? And like, I'll show guys at work what I'm making, and they're like, that's not real. And I'm like, I've done it for 4 years now, and it's in my account. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, it's crazy to hear you say. I mean, I just want to repeat that for everybody who may have missed it. $4,000 every 10 days. That's
Yeah.
absurd. That's you now you're starting to obviously understand, how you got on the millionaire track so quickly. I think there's so many people trying to, make a quick buck, but they're doing it in such a way where they're investing in the junk of the market. So penny
Hmm.
stocks. And that is an approach where, yeah, okay, you could see success maybe here or there once in the blue moon, but you do have this alternative approach that seems to be riskier, and perhaps it seems to be riskier because it got a bad name through those who maybe didn't strategize as well. What would you say is like the number one reason why people aren't investing with this strategy? Because it works. I've had other people on also who tout how well this strategy works, but again, a lot of haters and a lot of people saying it's just risky. There's no way they're getting involved. Yet these people are trying to be on the millionaire track too. What's like the number one reason you would say that people think this is like a gambling approach?
Probably because they don't want to put the time in to learn it. Like, talk finances with anyone. Like, it breaks my heart, to be honest. Like, it's sad. Like, it's not like you have to learn this because, like, the houses in Calgary, like where I'm from, like, if you aren't having your money try to crush it for you, you can't make enough. And it's just like, yeah, the options sound like gibberish to you, but it's like the people that are saying that, like they don't even know the basics of like the what the S&P is. Like they haven't put in the time, and it just breaks my heart because if you get someone young and you explain it to them, they got time. You know what I mean? But like I explained how money worked once to an old guy at work once, and kind of just seen it on his face. You know what I mean? Like his window was gone, and it just
What
broke my
was that
heart.
explanation?
Well, it's just like it was just kind of like it's just like it grow like. Well, the first thing is the thing that got me is like you gotta watch. Well, there's so many steps. I'll try breaking it. You gotta learn the basics, like the S&P 500, how it works long term, blah blah blah. Then you got to get on a compound interest thing, and you got to get excited about it because it's going to be like investing's. It's all up here, so it's like your first year is going to suck because even if you only put in $1,000, you get 10%. It's like I made 11. I made $100. It's like this is boring. This sucks. And it's like yeah, I know, but like when you got a million in there, that same return's 100 grand. And then you gotta another thing is you can't just hype people up. You gotta tell them it's gonna crash because if they don't have like the understanding of how the market works, when they hit that first dip, they're out and they're done. So then you just set them up for failure there. So you gotta almost preach that more because anyone can be in the market when it's hot. You just gotta that's why you gotta buy the good stuff and know that side of it. Where was I going with that? And then another thing is you got to tell people like, yeah, it looks sweet when you open your thing, but you can't touch it. Like my account, when I open it, I'm like, I'm proud of that. Like, I hit that number, but like the money I have to spend right now is probably like $2,000. After I pay my bills, I make myself broke. I throw it all in there. I got maybe $1,000 in a savings account and $1,000. Like this month, my credit card, I didn't even get to pay it fully off because I had some things happen at the house. Like, my wife signed up further her education a bit, so we paid for that or whatever, and I just paid as much. But it's like I'm not dipping from my investments because I'll make up for it other ways. I might touch the options a bit because with the premiums and stuff, I've done that. Like, we go on a trip or something, I've pulled a little bit out. But the other stuff, it's like, yeah, it looks sweet, but it's like I have $3,000. That's where I'm working off till next pay. You know what I mean? So I think someone that's doing that, they got to learn that side, the three little pillars. And then the options is just the guys that get all the stuff I just explained. Like you'll never be able to explain to someone options and how they work if they don't know what the S&P 500 is. Like it's just that next level because it's overwhelming for a lot of people, but it's one of those things if you can break it down and it clicks, it's just a lifesaver. Like I don't know how this isn't taught in schools. It's just like I always joke like I didn't know anything about finances in high school, but you throw me a recorder today, I'll still belt out hot cross buns. It's like, what's more important, Try,
Well, hot cross buns, man.
yeah, it's just like, come on.
You could play that out in the street, for some chunk change.
Yeah, I guess. But it's just like, yeah, so I think the guys that hate on it too, and I get it too, like if you buy like MSTY right now, I threw some money in it because I thought it was cool, but it's like, I would never recommend anyone else to because it's like it's eroded half the portfolio. And yeah, if I make it 1 year, I'm on house money. And then anything they pay me after that, it's just free money and I got my money back. But until I get there, I'm telling everyone I'm in it, but let's give it a year. You know what I mean? So maybe they see that. They see like, yeah, you're getting these sweet dividends and stuff like that, but you see the erosion and it's like, well, yeah, it's probably different in the funds, but if you're just doing the covered calls and you're the guy doing the covered calls and stuff, it can be pretty sweet. And you can go so safe. Like you can do like if you're older and you're worried about like this market, like jump on SPY, jump on QQQ. Like you can make it so easy. You could buy it and you can be like, I want 20%. Go a year out, find the number that's going to be a 20% return, sell it, make the covered call. You'll get your 20% instantly. And then if it runs up, you're gonna have some capital gains. But if you're just after that 20%, like there's so many different strategies for different people. But I would say that people that hate on it, they don't know enough about it or they haven't done it. If someone showed me their portfolio and they're doing it and I don't know, and they're doing it on good stocks, I don't think they are haters.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember about a year ago, somebody was on, a fellow creator actually, and he talked a lot about the necessity to pick good quality companies. And he also very similarly, right, he started with dividend investing. And I feel like a lot of people, a lot of investors who do start off with dividend investing, I mean, they have the itch for income.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like the next level of income. And I feel that just so many individuals don't want to venture out from their traditional dividend investing strategy. And I don't know if it's whether it's fear or whether it's just the storyline that comes around with, options, it's riskier. I mean, fair enough to say that even when you open a margin account, because you're using some margin, there are risk disclosure forms that you have to, fill out, and maybe that scares people away. But
Yeah.
from every single individual I have heard from that is seeing success from this, they're very casual, they simplified it, and it doesn't ever seem risky.
I think people just don't want to put the work in to learn, and it's a lot more work. Like my other portfolio, I log in, yeah, when I'm bored and stuff, or when I have a bunch of dividend payments, I'll log in. And that's another thing too, like those ETF cover calls, like there's like if you don't want to put in the work, like those are sweet too. Like my tax-free savings account pays me $4,600 a month in dividend. So then I just log in once a month and there's my paycheck and I just buy something else. So I've kind of built them heavier there, and then I'm just going to buy the ETFs with it and stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy. Like the thing for me was, and you're looking at your phone a lot more. You're looking at when your expiry dates are, and it's a lot, like it's more work. Like I'm not going to sit here and say it's the same as buying the S&P. No, but it's like from your phone, like, and it takes 2 seconds. Me and the wife were golfing the other day, and I was like, "Hey, can you just drive the cart till our ball? I got to sell a call." And then she's like, "Yeah."
I
And I
gotta
was
make
like,
us our income.
"Well, yeah." I was like, that, yeah. I just made $1,500 American between my drive and your shot. It's like
What's what's her
we went.
response?
She's like, "Wow, I don't know." She just supports it.
No
Like,
idea.
well, she gets it. Like, she doesn't, obviously she's not in it like me, but I'm usually keeping her up to date and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to get it to a point where I just know if you get that account big, it can, like, I want to get that account. Like, I guess for like quickness, like I think it'll be 5 years in December I started it. Like that account's 10x. So it's just like like I was saying, from that millionaire mindset, like you got to get the money now, and then once it's there, let the money just work itself. So like I want to get to a number in my options account, and then I think from me, like my own thing is it's just gonna kind of like I'm just gonna, as with the premiums, I'm just gonna flood the other account for the long term thing. You know what I mean? Like because I work away, so I'm week in week out, and right now like especially we just have a young boy right now too, and like I like the job and I like the work, and I like the guys I work with, but I hate leaving, and it's hard on my wife because we don't have family here and stuff. So when I'm gone, she's on her own, and our boy's not the best sleeper too. So it can be. So I just want to like get to a point where it's just. But it's the same thing as I get paid really well up north, so it's like right now I just want to stock as much cash as I can before I can take a job that pays me less or make enough with the options. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer, the option side of it too. And like I said, I don't go all in. There's times where I'm like, well, I got to move all my money and think of the money I would, and I just stop myself. Like, you got to have some conservative. Like, it's an allocation of my portfolio. It's not the full thing.
Now, I like the millionaire mindset that you're talking about, and it's something that unfortunately I learned, I think too late in the game. I think a lot of us just learn it too late in the game. It really is about getting as much money into the account as possible. And in doing so, that is a part of the, work smarter, not harder, because you can work your whole freaking life. And, if you're only throwing in $50 or $200 when you could have been throwing in $1,000, as you shared when you're playing around with the compound calculator, I mean, you'll see the difference right in front of you. What's your salary right now? And when you're throwing all this money in, because a lot of people even complain about not even having the funds to do this whole thing. This is always a big complaint. And people say you can't become a millionaire so quickly unless you already have a ton of money.
So yeah, I'm fortunate. Like I make probably around 250 grand up north week in, week
But a
out.
heavy sacrifice.
Oh, it's huge, man. But it's also too like my wife doesn't work a ton now. It's like she's a nurse. So like we lost one income pretty much, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like, and the same thing, and I get why people would say that, you know what I mean? Like I had the extra cash. Some people don't, and I get that. But so for those people, like you can find $300, like it's crazy. Like I go through sometimes I log into my credit card, I'm like, I was hacked. And then I go through and I was like, oh, it's me. That was me. That was me. It's like, how did I get so high? But just tap, like we go for a coffee every day. So there is ways if you can't find the money. Like I could cut out so much cash out of but me and my wife, we like to go for a drive. We stop at Tim's and get a coffee. I don't care that it costs me $8. It's kind of like an entertainment to me. So it's every person's going to be different, but I am fortunate because I do make, good money up there. But I mean, at the same time, like you said, we're gone. I'm living out in the middle of the woods. The job can get dangerous. Like, it's pretty smooth. And then when things go crazy, it can get crazy. So like there is sacrifice there, but it is the golden handcuffs up there. Like they pay you just enough. You know, you look for something at home. It's such a pay cut, so you can't really take it yet. But they just don't pay you a crazy amount where you can get super ahead. You know what I mean? Because like I said before, like Canada's so expensive. Like I make that income and we don't live a crazy life. Like my house I'm in now is, if you were to move to Calgary, it's probably your starter home. Like it's an older home that's renovated, but it's still 650,000, maybe worth 700. Yeah, I mean, I am fortunate that I have a good job, but at the same time, like I feel so bad for people in Canada. Like I'm feeling the money stresses with an income like that. You know what I mean? So it's like someone that's trying to battle and making 60,000. I feel terrible for them. So those are the people I'd love to help, because it's like, okay, well, you got to get it now, because now time is your way of getting it. Like you might not live like this crazy balled out life, but at least when you've worked 60 years, there's going to be a million minimum there for, you know what I mean? So it's kind of
Right.
pick what life you want. But if you're in that situation where be a realist, and it's like, okay, you might not, yeah, like I said, you might not, but at least when you're older, you're not working anymore. You can make her till the end kind of thing. So I like helping those people, especially because those are the ones that really need it. Like, because they work harder than anyone. You know what I mean? Like they deserve an awesome retirement. They deserve a great life. Like, and it's doable for anyone. It's just you got to know where to put it and how it all works.
Now, were you always making north of 200,000?
No, like when I started, I've been there 7 years, so like I've got pay progressions and stuff like, and we actually, and the oil industry is another thing, right? Like it can be sweet, and then Trump could tweet something, and it could be terrible, and then or Trump could tweet something, and then it could be awesome. Like you make sure you follow Trump for sure. Guys, he's funny, man. I love it.
If there's one tip on this episode, just make sure you
Follow
follow
Trump
what
on.
Trump tweets because the market reacts. That's
Well,
certainly truthful.
it's crazy. Like even yeah, but no, I never made that right through. Like when I started up there, I was maybe like 150, I would say. Like a new guy that came out, no experience. If he got up out there, he'd be probably 150-ish. But then we got some more raises as oil went up. But then another time when oil hit -30, that was crazy. Like they were laying guys off left and right. So like I was fortunate enough not to get my number called there. But yeah, there's your job's based off the price of oil, so it's a little intimidating too.
What's crazy to think about, I mean, there's so many people out there that are trying to achieve a much higher salary than they have now. Maybe they're making 60,000 or 70,000, just less than 100,000. Again, they're looking for this money and they've gone to college, they've done the college deal. They're trying to work their way up a corporate ladder, but yet they're stuck at this lower salary. And then you get, whether it's guys like yourself or even content creators, like whoever it is, with these much larger salaries saying, well, just do X, Y, and Z. What would you say to these people who are really trying to find that cash to actually throw into the market or are having some trouble finding that extra $300?
If I was someone that was making like 80 grand a year and you're good at your job, if you're good at your job, start shopping around, like jump ship every 2-3 years. Like there's lots of guys that put videos on it because your guy will get like, or ask for the raises and stuff like that. Um, I personally would. I mean, because like you might get that 10% raise, but it's like someone might pay you 20 grand to jump ship. You know what I mean? So I've watched a few videos on it. It's interesting. Like a lot of guys will say, like, if you're at 80, just while you're there, work as hard as you can, blah blah blah. But constantly reaching out, doing interviews. Oh, they're gonna offer you 100. Now you take the jump, and then you do it again, and then do an interview somewhere else. They're gonna go 120. It's like, well, okay. So say that loop just took you 5 years to jump 3 jobs. Would you have went from 80 to 150 at your original job? Probably not. And even if it's sweet and your boss is sweet, I'll tell you for free. Like if you get fired tomorrow, someone's sitting in your chair the next day. You know what I mean? And you got to look out for yourself at the end of the day. I mean, there's obviously perks, like if you get to work from home and you have kids, well, that's a huge benefit or stuff like that. But someone starting out like that, and like I said about the credit card thing, like if you really want to cut out $300, just Hawkeye that thing because if I wanted to save another 300, I bet you I could save 1,000 a month just going through that thing, because it is, like I said, there is times I'm like, we were hacked. I got to report this. And I go through it. I'm like, that was all me and my wife just getting coffee, something for the kid. And, well, now with the kid, there's always something we need. But yeah, it's crazy. It's too easy to spend money nowadays with digital.
The greatest story, going through your credit card history, we get hacked. It's just you.
It's just me. Like, I remember looking at it, I was like, oh, someone got my card. Well, I better find the transaction that is the hack. And I was just went through the whole thing. I was like, that is all me. I am not hacked, and I gotta pay this off now. Jeez.
So I want to back up. In the beginning of your investment career, you did talk about dividend investing and how that got your interest. What was the real big push for you to pull away from dividends? Because it really is two different types of investors almost here. Dividend investors are almost ultra conservative, and this is just from experience of, from what I've seen and experienced, because I really started out heavy in like dividend investing with mid to higher yields. The
Yeah.
moment I decided to pull back a little bit and target the growth stocks, right? Dividend growth stocks. All of a sudden, there's an uproar in the dividend investment community. For me, income is income. I have this end goal. I got to get there. And like you said, it's get to that millionaire status any means possible. What was the final trigger for you just to say, you know what? I see what's happening here with the dividends. I have income coming in, but this risk is worth it.
Yeah. For me, it was just it's both. Like, you know what I mean? And I also don't want it all, because I had a large, like, these covered call ETFs, they're awesome. And like, some of them have been around for a few years, but they don't have the 20-year track on them. Say you go all in, then it's sweet, but then for some reason there's something we missed or something in 20 years. At least I have the other stuff where if I lost a bit on one, hopefully they've grown. Another thing for me was taxes, because I get taxed so hard at my income. Like, I'm 50%, you know what I mean? So it's like my tax-free savings account, um, it doesn't matter what I get paid in there, because it's all tax free. So I have all my dividend stuff there. So it's like when the 4,600 comes in, it's 4,600 tax free. So I like that. And then my cash accounts and a little bit of my TFSA, I do the long term ETFs, because I'm not worried about realizing a gain, because I'm not touching it. And I really like doing I did the dividends covered calls first, because I want to grow a good chunk of my TFSA through the ETFs. But now I've built the covered calls first, so that when the 4,600 comes in every month, because you can only put so much in your TFSA every year. So I'm maxed out on it. And now with the 4,600 just keeps coming in. Now I just throw it into the ETFs, or into the long-term ETFs. So it's just, and then at the same time too, you get these market dips, you're buying for better pricing. So I like that. And then I guess sorry, kind of a loop around there, but my main thing was just, I want more income. So there's another element. I just, like, I don't care if it's a dividend, a covered call. I just want this much cash. I want cash coming, is my kind of thing. And I love the stock market. Like, it's all I do. Like, I'm on my phone looking at things. I'm on Twitter reading things. Like, I'm looking up stocks. Like, I truly love it. So it's tough. Like, if you don't love stocks, like, if you hate investing, covered calls is gonna be a real hard, because it's gonna be terrible. But yeah, for something like that, that's kind of how I kind of went out there.
So let me ask you outright, do you think that the traditional route, dividend investing, do you think it's dying? We have a ton of ETFs that are coming out that are covered call specific derivatives. And the reality is, these are the ETFs, these are the investment vehicles that are kicking back to shareholders, distribution rates that are off the charts, that are really making people a pretty penny in terms of the income. And who wants to make at this point at least a 3% dividend when you could be getting a 15, 16, 20+% distribution rate?
I think you're still gonna, like, you'll never lose old money in the smaller dividends, but they have such some people, like, if you got large portfolios, then yeah, they might be just happy getting that 4% or whatever. But like, the world's, like I was saying how many times, like, it's so expensive for the average person nowadays that they don't have as much money to put in it, because life's just chewing it all up. So you need, if you can, like, who's going to sign up for 4 if you can get, and like, some of them, like, I get how, and it's nice too that I know the covered calls, because then the ETFs, I think that's kind of a part of it too, is like, people see, like, oh, they do covered calls on the ETF, and they don't know what a covered call is. So then they're like, oh, it's a scam, or they're doing something risky. So, whereas, like, I do the options on my own. So I know when they say, like, they do a 25% leverage covered call, it's like, okay. or they're like, oh, they sell covered calls on 25% of the portfolio. So it's like, okay, well now, no, just hearing that, I have 75% of the portfolio a chance of gains. Like I'm not limited. But if someone's just saying, well, they do cover calls, but they don't know what they are, it might scare them because they don't actually understand what they're doing. But I think for your question, I think they are dying because, like I said, people want to make as much money as they can as soon as they can.
It's so interesting because, the more and more I have these conversations, and a lot more investors now are dipping into the derivatives, ETF route because of these rates that they're able to get, in terms of returns. So it becomes the no-brainer. And, 10, 15, 20 years ago, these weren't options for the retail investor. They weren't even on the table.
No. And I find with the older generation too, like they don't like to be taught. You know what I mean? Like, I got guys at work. I'm like, try to teach him about he's sitting there making the same money as me, and he doesn't have $1 in his tax receipt in his account. Like he's got like the company RSP and stuff like that, and he's probably paid down his house, like the old, like, you know what I mean? RSPs and just pay down your mortgage is pretty much like that generation. But like, you know what I mean? Like you could actually help the guy. You try to, and he laughs at you. Like I remember him saying, "Oh, those are stupid." And it's like, well, that's fine. Like I don't care. Like I don't mind.
Yeah.
Like you can lead a horse to water, but I'm not going to force someone to take my advice. But I try to offer it, and he said they're stupid. So if he can sleep at night, I'm going to sleep fine. But it's just, I think that's kind of the way some people think. And it's that sometimes people are stuck in their own
Yeah,
ways.
that's the unfortunate reality. And I guarantee you, 100% certainty, we will see people in the comments of this video making those same remarks. This is crazy, outlandish. This is stupid. This is too risky. No way. And we've circled back to this now a couple of times. It's like people just haven't done their due diligence and their homework on what this whole approach entails. But for those investors who are curious, for those investors who are looking to double up on their income, where would you recommend they start? How would you recommend to create or curate a portfolio? And let's just take an investor, not from scratch. I'm going to assume everybody watching this right now is at least invested. They have a portfolio. But now that we're watching your journey here, listening to your journey, we go, okay, we want to double up on the income. How do we pivot, and how do we start attacking the market like you are?
There's a couple good like YouTube videos of just type in the wheel strategy. That's just what I do. I mean, options, if you open that book, it goes everywhere. It's too confusing for me even. Like if I'm really feeling gambly, I'll buy a call. You know what I mean? That's as far as I go. Like if I'm like, I got some money, because I'm a gambler. Like don't get me wrong. Like I like to risk some of my money too. So I'll buy a call. That's as far as I go. And I refuse to look up like leaps or anything like that because I know how I'm wired. So it's working for me, and I won't learn more because I know if I get into it, look out. But for someone starting out, first things first, I find interactive brokers. Because look at your thing. Like I'm with a company called Q Trade, and like their options fees are huge. And then there's like a hidden, like if I actually get filled on it, I get charged more. Where interactive brokers, like, it's $1 a trade. You know what I mean? And you're constantly doing trades. So first things first, I'd say is like, I'm sure there's others, but like interactive brokers has been great for me. And then just go on YouTube, figure out what they're doing, because once you open the app, it's scary, and you just really just dumb it down. Like, I'm gonna sell puts on a company, and then I'm gonna sell calls. Like, and make sure you're checking. It's always sell. You're not buying puts. You're not buying calls. Double check, because it's almost bit me a few times. And then and then the third thing is, I'm not using margin to start. If you're scared or you're not sure, don't touch the margin, because that's where you can get in trouble. And you're going to do it on good companies, and do it on a super good company. Like, it doesn't matter if you make $5. You know what I mean? Just get the trade, because the trade that pays $5 or the trade that pays $6,000 is the same trade. It might be more contracts, but it's just typing in amount of contracts, but it's the exact same trade. So if you get real comfortable just making $5, and you can do that, you throw in, you know what I mean? Throw in, I don't know, $6,000. You can do Coca-Cola. The thing barely moves, and if it does, it's going up. It's a perfect one to practice on. You know what I mean? So I would say something like that. First of all, learn what you're doing, like what it is, And then another thing is reach out to guys. Like, I don't think I could have did this on my own, but there was those three guys at work that are big in the market with me. They're like more computer savvy and stuff, so they kind of caught on to it before me, I would say. And then so I had someone to like bounce with, or you know what I mean? Or like when you do the first trade, you're scared even though you know what you're doing, but just I had them over my shoulder saying, "Yeah, you're doing it right." You know what I mean? Something like that. So learn it quick and start on a small company because like I said, if you make a mistake, at least you made it on, you lost a little bit of money, not a ton.
I'd love to get your take on how you would define a high quality company or like a good company. I know you mentioned Coca-Cola, but what are like the framework fundamentals around these companies that would make the ideal
I guess,
investment?
yeah. I mean, I guess when I say good companies, I just mean like not the greatest and greatest hype, like the GameStops or the AMC's and like just like your Facebook, like your Meg Sevens and stuff. Like Tesla's super volatile, so I'd stay away from that unless you're like legit riskier, and because the premiums would be real good. But if that's your first one, whew, be a tough one to start on. But just something like I don't know, you know what I mean? That's what I mean when I say good companies and stuff like that. I like when I'm looking at companies, I like to check the debt and the cash on hand too is my big thing because I mean when things turn sour, I mean if a company's sitting on a boatload of cash or some of them are no debt, it's like well he might go down, but there's probably a good chance he survives it. You know what I mean? That's kind of my thing. And honestly, like I find like Twitter, I've got to like don't believe it. Like Twitter's bad, like but I've got all my like I've got SoFi, Palantir, Celsius, all from Twitter. But anything I get, I look at myself. Like every person that posts about it, I say they're wrong, but I'll see if they're wrong. Because like these communities, I find like once they get going, it's growing so fast that it's kind of like a chance for like the retail investor to get in before the Wall Street does. And it's like you got to realize that you need those guys in for your stock to go because it's like you got guys with $1 million portfolios. Well, these guys are spending 100 million when they come in. Like it's a different game, and that's what's going to move the market. But I've been fortunate with like just kind of being on these like just keeping my just kind of always reading. You know what I mean? See what people are talking about. And another one too is like Elf Beauty. I got an Elf Beauty early, and I went to the mall. Say I did the same with Estee Lauder. Am I saying that right? Look at that. When I can't say Estee Lauder.
Yeah, yeah.
Estee Lauder, yeah. I went to the mall and walked around all the beauty shops and stuff and just checked out the racks. And then I asked the people who sell it. I was like, because Elf, you go around, shelves are empty. And then they got crushed because tariff warnings. It's like, well, they're a $10 product. So it's like, if they get nailed with a big tariff, where they go to 12, like you're still going to buy it. Estee Lauder, I was a little nervous because they're expensive. But so then I just went around and asked all the people. And I was like, are you selling this every day? And they're like, oh, yeah. I find like just do a little effort and you can kind of work out good. And those are kind of companies, like I said, like I really like the companies that were one time really good and had a huge beat up. Like, something came out, but they're actually doing the right things to change it. Like Celsius, they're up to $90 and then they just like free falled. I think I bought them at like 28. You know what I mean? Because they had that little Pepsi overbought there. And just things like that I like to find because I find like even if you don't get the all-time highs again, if they're good solid companies with good CEOs, um, you usually get a rally. You know what I mean? Like eventually if they're doing the right things, they're turning it around, they're increasing revenue or like you know what I mean? Like they usually have like you might not get like back to the where, but I've been lucky every time and they've kind of popped back for me.
So do you then recommend, let's just say I wanted to start, right now. Do you recommend that I sell off dividend stocks or sell off positions in my portfolio and start to focus in on building out a portfolio like yours? Or like what's the ideal construction of one of these portfolios?
I would say it just depends. Like I say, you got to just get enough money in there to do one trade, like and test it. Like do it for 3 months till you're looking at your phone and it's not like the hairs aren't standing up on the back when you're doing the trade. Like you're comfortable enough. I'm selling a put. I'm selling a call. I have the money there to own it, and I understand it. Like once you can teach it to someone, I think you're in. And then for someone like that, I think it's just all comfort. Like um, I don't like kind of like I don't like really bleeding other portfolios unless you have to do it kind of thing because it sucks if you bleed one and that one ends up being right. and then the other one you kind of have trouble with, and you're like, man, I kind of lost twice there. I mean, if you have to, you have to. But at the same time, it's kind of one of those things like, I'm going to start this. I'm going to put all my extra cash into it. Let the other dividend stuff keep growing, doing their thing. But this is now, or you can get crazy like me and just throw it on a line of credit and hope for the best. But I don't recommend that thing.
Well, that's another thing, right? I had somebody else on, weeks back, and he was very much like knee deep, more than knee deep in margin. And so, although he is really doing well for himself, all in his 40s, multimillionaire, started off with margin, and he shared it's like taking out a mortgage. And
Yeah,
so, if you're willing to take out a mortgage, why aren't you willing to use margin on an investment account? Again, it's all about targeting what you already shared, good companies, which is the key.
yeah,
Because if you're going to target the penny stocks and the riskier stocks, okay, then it's not necessarily like you're not going to go out and buy a crap house for yourself and your family, right? You're going to try to find at least a reliable home you can move into, and if it's a fixer upper a tad bit, okay, that's more than acceptable. But that's where the mortgage comes from, this mortgage concept. And I just, again, I keep going back to this idea of so many investors are just missing the mark when it comes to this approach.
they are. And I mean, and it's all comfort level. Like if I didn't have my job up north, I wouldn't have put a line of credit of 30,000 to start. You know what I mean? Because I knew if I went to zero, I could I could pay that down eventually because I had the extra cash. So I get someone saying like, yeah, it must be nice to throw it on line of credit. I get it. But I'm just saying it's comfort level. I'm also a little, like I've said, I'm a gambler by nature, like an educated gambler. I believe in that. No one that's crushing it in life never took a risk. Like there's no one you won't meet. It's like when, like I laugh when people like, they had a, they go, I don't want to buy bank stocks in case they crash. Well, where do you keep your money? In the bank. And it's like what? Like, think about that. Like you're better off to own the shares, and if it goes to zero, your money, like, yeah, there's an insurance for a certain amount in your account, but some people are sitting on big cash, and that's their answer. It's like, just please think about that. I don't know. I just think you got to take some risk. It's gonna feel scary. It's terrifying. There's still sometimes I do trades. I'm like, am I doing this right? Yeah, but like I can quickly show you. Like I write them down. So, and it's not every month is the same. Because there's pullbacks, and then you're stuck sitting there. And that's another thing too. Because like here's another, I would say, something I found. If I buy, say I sell puts on something that's trading at 60, and it drops down to 50, and I got to buy it at 60, I will not sell covered calls for anything less than 60 because you have that. Yeah, the premiums are gonna be juicy. I don't care if it pays me $5. I'm not selling until I'm over 60 because I will not lose on the gains because that's where you can lose a lot of gains. It's got to get back to my break even before I'm willing to let go of it. Is another quick thing, but like just for people's sake, like January was 9,500, February was 5,300, March
$9,500
American,
in
yeah,
January.
yeah,
That's how you started off the year.
yeah. I went 9,500, 5,300. March was 7,300, and then April was that big pullback there when the tariffs and all that stuff came out. So I made 4,300. So like on a terrible month, I still did well. Um, May May I made 8,300, and then June was just over 8,000. But it's like the thing is too, it's like you'll get these good companies that are stuck in a lull, and if you're an options trader, there's nothing better. Like I had PayPal that didn't move for like a year, and like if you're online, they're like, "What a junk company, PayPal, PayPal." But I just sat there, bought it for 60, sold covered calls at 65. It never touched it, and I just collected premium. So I was probably up like 30-40% on the stock, and it didn't move a day in its life. You know what I mean? So like when you get those lulls, you can crush it, and then I always sell a little high, like because I want that appreciation if I miss it. Another way too, if you're really scared, it's like I want the appreciation. Well, say you can buy 100, like one contract is 100 shares. We'll buy 150 shares and sell one contract, then you got 50 shares riding if you miss it. You know what I mean? It depends
Almost
on,
like a double insurance.
yeah, it's just like if you're the guy that's preaching, yeah, but I don't want to miss the upside. It's like, well, okay, buy 200 shares and sell contract on one. Because I'll tell you for free, there is no better feeling than when you sell something that's, you bought it at 60. You sell a 10-day contract, it pays you $500 American, which is sweet in Canada, and it just goes up and stops at 64. And you're like, oh, well, you just like, I gained that I got the premium plus it's up and I don't have to sell my shares. And then the next month you walk it to 67. So you can actually walk them up. You got to get lucky, and eventually you're going to miss one that really takes off. But I mean, it's different strategies for whoever, right? But that's just my personal thing.
I think one of the biggest blessings that we have at this point is a whole community blossom, to which you just joined relatively recently. And so, to all the investors who are out there listening, you can literally find Jarett's portfolio on Blossom. You can connect with him there. There's going to be a link down there in my description, in the pinned comment. But the reality is, this approach works. It's an approach that now I don't even know what number investor you are jumping on talking about this approach, but it's about time I feel all of us as a community actually do our due diligence and research if we're really trying to make income. Because after hearing your numbers here, I mean, kicking off the month just under $10,000, and there are dividend investors who have been at this for years now, just only bringing in $4,000 or $5,000. Yeah, you're doing this monthly. So it's the magic. It's the magic. It works if you're working it the correct way. But with that, investors, I want to know your thoughts. How do you feel about this strategy? Comment down below with all your thoughts in the comments. Connect with the both of us on Blossom. And most importantly, I want to thank you for joining me on Masters of the Market. And until the next go round of Masters investors, we will see you all in the next one.